Okay guys, on to the main event of the roof here. Now it has a ton of pigtails and sanding marks in the middle of the paint, but actually as a bigger concern is around the edges. Why is that a concern? It tends to be thinner, you have less room to work. It's a little bit kind of scary working on that part. Now we have to step back a little bit because I looked at the car and your first thing you want to do is say, how can Aston Martin have a car, leave its factory looking like this? And then you go, okay, let's put the pieces together. It's very unlikely that a professional technician at Aston Martin or pick a higher end car, Ferrari, Bentley, whatever, leaves the factory and it looks like this. So you have to do a little bit of detective work here. So I'm going to use my endless analogies. As you know, paint expands and contracts, expands and contracts. We talk about this in the Ammo Training Academy with Kevin Brown. I'll put a link right up here. But basically what's happened is once the car comes out of the factory and they're buffing it and they're sanding it and the paint is relatively fresh, at that point it's kind of expanded. So I'll go to my analogy. Let's say you get punched in the eye right now. What happens is your face is going to swell up and your eye kind of shrinks, but your eye didn't go away. Your eye is obviously still there, right? In this case, when they finished, the paint is expanded like this and the sanding marks, they're gone. It looks absolutely fantastic. But over time, as the swelling goes down in your eye, same thing, we call that dieback in paint. We call that, you know, the swelling going down in our face. The eye sort of pops out a little bit more in this weird analogy. Same concept here. The scratches sort of come to the surface again and are revealed. So we know it hasn't been sanded in the past from a previous detailer because it's just been sitting in a collection for, I think, a year and a half, maybe 2 years until my buddy over here purchased it. So we know this has been in here for a while and has just risen to the surface. Now, as a detailer, we're saying, how can we remove this? We have two steps. We have one that's a little bit more simple and maybe one that's more pro or weekend warrior type thing. The first one, pretty simple. You can take a microfiber towel or a microfiber little pad like this, use heavy compound. In this case, we have the course from Rupes. It's the heaviest version that they have. And you're gonna do it by hand. You're gonna wrap your thumb around and you're gonna work it in this tiny little area. The goal here, or the thing to keep in mind, is just like doing any other paint, there's gonna be some residue coming off. And so as we blow out the pads, as if when I'm doing the big sections here, when I do a larger throw machine, we're gonna have to blow out the pad. Same concept here. We're not really blowing this out because we're only using our thumb. We're gonna be constantly rotating the towel so we have a fresh towel with fresh compound on there, because you will be abrading away a little bit of that surface. So it's kind of a safer, more strategic approach. Easy enough. Now, if you want to go at a little bit more pro level, you can use a nano like this and shrink down the size. Instead of a big 6-inch pad or a 5-inch pad or a 3-inch pad, you can go down to 1- and 2-inch pads and strategically work these areas. Again, you want to be a little bit more comfortable because the edges here tend to be a little bit thinner than, of course, the middle. So that's where that fear of like, oh my gosh, not only are there scratches in the middle, which, okay, we can get those out. They're on the edge. Literally, it's like on the razor's edge. So a little bit more challenging to get those out. But if you think about it as a slow and steady pace or method to get just kind of lightly abrade these out, you can get them out. And it is a little bit scary, but you'll be able to do that. So we're going to spend, I don't know, maybe the next hour or two playing with these and do the rest of the car, and it's going to look fantastic. Step 1 is to simply make your life easy and to tape off anything you don't want to damage, like rubber areas or trim pieces. So if you decide to tackle this by hand, use lots of liquid and rotate your microfiber towel often. Now keep in mind, this is not a quick or easy process. Your fingers are going to feel it if you do a large area, but as you can see from the before and after, it's worth it if you're going for perfection.
Now it seems to be working pretty well, so I'm excited, but as you can imagine, it took me, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes just to do a quarter size, like literally the size of a quarter. Is it terribly complicated? No, you know, we're doing a little bit, sort of like shoveling your driveway with a spoon. Is it hard? No, it's just a little time consuming and makes you a little bit nuts. And believe it or not, there's actually detail shops, professional ones that focus just on that, meaning there's one guy that's going around just doing the edges and another person that's doing the big flat area. So they work in tandem, and I've done that for years on crazy you know, show cars and things like that. But this is why, because this side will take me probably 30, 35 minutes just to do this. But you don't want to go too much crazy, because you blow through the paint in one area, the whole job's done, and it's not worth, you know, not worth the effort at that point. You just ruined the whole thing. So sort of like archaeology, you just want to do a little bit and then stop. That's kind of this beauty, this dance of doing these supercars, and why it's kind of fun, because it's a challenge. It's not just a normal car. There's always something interesting going on with these.
Now, it's a little hard to see, but check the 50-50 shot right here. The before and after of the first round of hand polishing is actually pretty good. Now, if you have a lot of edges to do, you're relatively confident in your skills, and you want to avoid carpal tunnel syndrome, using a mini rotary with a wool pad can actually speed up the process greatly.
Okay, so right now I use the little rotary, and in reality this is what I'm going to be using and what I would use in the future, but I did it by hand there just to kind of prove that it can be done. Now in this case, what you're going to see, because this is a rotary and because it's wool, it worked really fast. It's like 1,000 little hand motions in a matter of 5 or 6 seconds, right? But you are going to get swirls like I'm seeing here, completely normal. Then I'm going to go in with the big 21 and do all the big flat panels, and I'll just kind of kiss this edge right here. I won't grind, I won't put this little edge in danger, but I will come by, pretending this is my full size one, I'll come through and I'll just kiss it, and just that alone will take out the little bit of wool pad swirls I put in. You're good to go.
On the larger areas, I used my trusty 21mm and a wool pad, and as you can see, the before and after is pretty obvious. There's swirls and tick marks over here, and then totally clear over here.